It's headlines and fun, true crime tales and a wild rerun. Bits of news to brighten your day in the latest, wackiest, petty expressway. Scandals, gators, space coast too. Crimes that baffle and headlines askew. When the world gets dark, we bring the cheer. Music nuggets, the good, the grim, the weird is here.
Hey guys, Mo here with some more Karen Read conspiracy after the fact. Looks like another juror is speaking out and how she was leaning toward a guilty verdict and kind of the evidence that changed her mind. And it is interesting to see the jurors come out and speak so openly about their verdict. We don't see this in every case, so this is interesting to sort of get their perspective of the trial that we were all glued to. So let's jump into this article. A juror in the Karen Read trial says that she was leaning toward a guilty verdict but changed her mind once she poured through the evidence, joining her 11 fellow panelists in acquitting the 45-year-old of both murder and manslaughter charges. Remember, Karen faced second-degree murder, but also reckless, homicide or manslaughter. Those are somewhat interchangeable depending on your jurisdiction, although I am not a lawyer trademark, just a layperson. So, take whatever legalish things I say with about 20 pounds of ramen noodle sodium, okay? Now, Janet Jimenez, juror number 12, knew nothing about the high-profile case in which Read was accused of hitting her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who was 46 when he passed, with her car, leaving him to pass away in a snowbank outside of a house party in January 2022. If you've been living under a rock, that is about the briefest synopsis of this case that one can give. It has more lore than the Dune, saga, or at least half of Dune, which is still a big saga. I felt like if they didn't pick me, they'd be fools because I didn't know anything about this case, Jimenez told WCVB TV in an interview on Friday. But suddenly the personal trainer from Medfield, Massachusetts had a front row seat to the months-long murder trial, which ended Wednesday when the jury found Read, a financial analyst, not guilty of second-degree murder, leaving the scene of an accident causing death, and manslaughter while driving under the influence. I think I had the best view in the house, Jimenez told the outlet. She was right there, and the defense was right there. Now, after a mistrial last year, Read was sentenced to only 1 year of probation for driving under the influence. Now, Jimenez joined at least 2 fellow jurors in speaking out after this decision. I went in with a very open mind, but I was definitely leaning towards she was guilty, Jimenez had said. But Jimenez said there were holes in the investigation, and even after poring over more than 200 pieces of evidence, she didn't find one item she was looking for, which she didn't specify, leaving her doubtful. I'm not here to say that the defense story was right or wrong, she explained. There were things that we saw and things that we heard that could have fit that scenario. So again, there's that whole doubt thing. The defense claimed that Read, a former adjunct professor, was the victim of an elaborate police cover-up and that O'Keefe was, laid hands on at the party, fisticuffs, and dragged out to the snow to pass away out there. Now, Jimenez said she didn't necessarily believe the defense's claims that a friend of Read's knew O'Keefe was left out in the snow, but or the accusations or the police cover-ups, but she is very comfortable with how she came to her decision. I guess it'll be part of my story, she said. On Thursday, Paula Prado, another juror, and I'll probably do a different video on her, said in an interview that while she believes that there was a chance Read might have backed up fast enough to touch O'Keefe, she didn't believe that his fatal head injuries were caused by getting hit by the car. As the weeks passed by, I realized there were too many holes and that we couldn't fill them, and there was nothing to put her at the scene, in our opinion, besides just dropping John O'Keefe off, Prado told WBZ, sorry. He definitely went inside and something happened in that home, she added. Now, another juror, identified only as Jason, told TMZ that reasonable doubt never played a part in his decision, and he believed that Reed's SUV never collided with O'Keefe. Some key witnesses in the trial, however, released a joint statement Wednesday calling the ruling a devastating miscarriage of justice. We all know I will probably be covering that interview fairly soon, but I did need a bit of a Karen Reed detox and trying to get Petty Express back going. But this is very interesting. I think the jurors are kind of stating things that every one of us have felt or said during this trial with the lack of evidence, the holes in the state's theory. I like to think that I'm kind of like this juror. Despite, sitting through the first trial, I was willing to give Hank Brennan and the Commonwealth a chance to prove that Karen was there and did that. And I, had hoped a little bit, as an objective person, that the Commonwealth's, new scientist could maybe shed light on this just for the family of John O'Keefe. Maybe they could, find a new scenario or figure out what happened. But the sad reality is that, and things that people who are very close-minded or have really picked their team, side on this case really don't understand is that, at the bottom of this is a man who didn't get the investigation he deserved. His life, his, service to his community, regardless of a person that he was, and regardless of whomever taking John out of this, every person who passes away should deserve to have the dignity and respect of a thorough investigation if one is needed. Not one where people half-ass or, do inappropriate things or, kind of, again, just, ramble on or MacGyver things. And it's so very sad, even going to the Lori Vallow trial, where it's now, after watching Karen Reed, it's refreshing to see a police force, detectives, crime scene investigators, analysts that took pictures, that labeled, that measured, that collated, that had reports done contemporaneously, not 600 days after, who, answered every question, weren't evasive. That was the big problem with the Commonwealth's story. None of it added up. None of their witnesses, layperson or expert, gave you the confidence that they were doing this kind of objectively. At least in my opinion. These are only my opinions, but I did want to let you guys know that another Karen Reed juror is speaking out and kind of how she felt about it, being very honest that she thought that, after the Commonwealth's case that, that there could have been a possibility that Karen hit him. So it's interesting. She didn't get very detailed, at least in this article, about what that specific piece of evidence she was looking for was. Maybe she will open up about that, probably in her book deal, but let's be real. And hey, if she writes a book, more power to her. It'll be interesting to read. Possibly more interesting than Plevin's book, although I do enjoy a good fantasy, but add a shirtless man in there, please. Thank you. Anywho, I will talk at y'all later. Remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of itch fire because it's Canton, y'all. And Canton may be spreading. Who knows? I'll talk at you later. Bye, you guys.